Guys? Welcome to the New American Dream Podcast. I'm your host, George Gibson. All right, we got an awesome show coming ahead today, but this episode, is extremely special to me because as we were recording this episode, we brought up my guy, Mr. Rick Jarman, Mr. Old School Real Estate on Instagram, and we were talking about how he helped me, and I was just explaining to the guests how he helped me, not knowing he had passed earlier that day. I didn't know this, but this episode is definitely in remembrance of Mr. Rick Jarman, Old School Real Estate on Instagram, and I just want to. Me and him had many conversations. I knew him. He came on my podcast maybe a year ago, and I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go check it out. But man, Mr. Rick played a huge part in my life and success in just that short amount of time. And the reason I say that is because when I had him on the podcast, it was extremely important because I think I had just quit my job maybe a few weeks before that. So I quit my job at the post office, and I'm still scared and nervous because I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. And I brought Mr. Rick. I seen him. He came on Instagram. He had like a couple hundred followers, and I was like, I sensed it. I'm like, this is wisdom right here. So I reached out to him, and I was like, Mr. Rick, I want you to come on my podcast. I'm gonna interview you. And what's podcast, George? And so when we set it up that day, he had his granddaughter help him out, but it took us. I had to call him and explain how to turn your phone on airplane mode and do not disturb, and you set it up, and we finally got on there. But man, Mr. Rick, he was a real old country guy, and he just was a great dude. And we recorded that podcast, and about halfway through the podcast, he was telling me a story how he quit his job as a custodian at the college, and that was the last time he worked. He was a custodian at a college, and he ended up quitting that job to go work for himself full time in the real estate industry. And he had already done it, but he assured me that, George, you made the right decision. People like me and you, we are going to be okay because we are hard working. And a lot of times, we are working. I'm working right now. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I hope I'll be successful, but he assured me and gave me the confidence in myself to say, man, you made the best decision you could have made. And in the 10, 15 years, you're going to look back and say, wow, look, when, I quit my job and look all these houses I got. Mr. Rick had over 100 rental properties, and you wouldn't know it by just talking to him, but, he was about helping good people. He had a lot of Section 8 properties, and he just taught me so much. And my first property I purchased, right, I talked about it on Bigger Pockets, but it was a duplex, and the appraisal came back at probably, I think, $78,000, right? I was under contract to purchase this property for like around $100,000, and it came back appraised at $78,000. So, everybody in my life and my broker, they were like, George, don't buy a property if it don't appraise at that value. So I talked to the seller, and I finally got the price down to about $85,000, $90,000 because I explained that house appraised at $78,000. So the seller was willing to drop the price down to about $90,000 to $85,000. So I called Mr. Rick. I said, Mr. Rick, man, I'm talking to everybody, in my real estate agent groups, and they said, George, don't buy a property if it don't appraise at the value it should appraise at the purchase price. But I said, Mr. Rick, but it's a duplex, man. This side rent out for this much, this side rent out for this much, and my monthly payment, as far as the bank said, be like, $500 a month. He said, George, if you telling me it is rented out for that side, one side rent out for this side, one side rent out for that side, and your monthly mortgage is going to be this amount, the numbers make sense. He said, if the numbers make sense, the cash flow makes sense, I would buy it. Because he said, I'll purchase properties over appraised that appraised less than what they're worth, but the numbers made sense. And, that helped me move over that hump because I was finna back out and pull out that deal. And after I got the phone with Mr. Rick, I said, look, let's do it. I put the extra money down, and I closed on the deal, and I still own that property to the day because, he gave me the courage. And, you can't ask people for help and tips on things that they never did before. And all these real estate agents, most real estate agents don't own rental properties. So I had to find somebody with wisdom and knowledge and determination like I got. And, he just helped me out with so much and helped many people across the Instagram. And guess how much he charged? $0. So this episode is dedicated to Mr. Rick, old school real estate Instagram, a lot of footage. So let's get into the show. Today we have an awesome guest. She's building up rental properties and just loads of information on how to make your business success at the early stage as we try to work our way to the ultimate goal of financial freedom. All right. Welcome to the show. We have Kristy. All right. Welcome to the show, Kristy.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yes, we finally made it happen. So, all right, let the people know who you are and just tell them a little bit about what you do.
Sure. My name is Kristy. I am a mom. I have 4 kids. And right now, I am a nurse by training, but I'm not working as a nurse. I take care of our kids at home. And then I really have just jumped feet first into real estate investing. So that's what I spend most of my time doing, is coordinating all of the different renovations for our properties.
Yes, I've seen some of your renovations on your Instagram. I'm like, it's a process dealing with all the people, right?
It is a lot. And I think that there are some people that do like cosmetic updates and they don't look for things. And we get the houses that have all the problems. So it's just everything, and it takes a lot longer to do the renovation process. But I like the whole design behind it. And then the house ends up being like exactly what we want it to be at the end. So it works out.
Wow. So you're doing it sounds like you're doing like $30,000 rehabs.
It's a lot more
than that. Oh my.
It's a lot.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Because I do rehabs. I try to stick to the, like the paint, the floor. I try to, because the big rehabs, it seems like you never know what you're going to run into. And it's just, do you have like a contractor inside, or you just?
So we have like a family friend that's, he's really handy and I'm decently handy. My husband and I, we bought our house that we live in as a bank-owned foreclosure. Right. And this was back in 2012, like January of 2012. And so we just kind of knew that we wanted to get a good deal. That was my husband's number one criteria, like that our house was a good deal. So it was big and it had been vacant for, I think, 3 years before we moved in, and everything needed to be touched and fixed and repaired. Water lines had burst, so there was like warped floors. They were like waves. Everything was just a mess. So we just got to work and figured it out and watched a lot of YouTube videos and learned a lot about how houses work through our own house. And then we're able to apply that now on all of our rentals.
Well, yeah, that's the good part. Your first house was a major rehab. So anything after that, I mean, you kind of know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So let's start from the beginning. Like, where were you raised at? Like, how was your childhood growing up?
So I grew up in like near Rochester, New York. And then I moved to Cincinnati when I was 7. And I've just stayed here since then. My husband was born here and raised here, and he didn't want to leave. So we stayed. And now we met each other in college and got married, and we have kids now, and this is where we're at. So we just invest here because it's close to home. There wasn't any like big research into other markets. It's like, well, this is what we know. So.
Right. All right. Yeah. We just flow with it. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
I'm in the zone now because that was crazy. All right. Welcome to the show, Kristy.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yes, we finally made it happen. So, all right, let the people know who you are and just tell them a little bit about what you do.
Sure. My name is Kristy. I am a mom. I have 4 kids. And right now, I am a nurse by training, but I'm not working as a nurse. I take care of our kids at home. And then I really have just jumped feet first into real estate investing. So that's what I spend most of my time doing, is coordinating all of the different renovations for our properties.
Yes, I've seen some of your renovations on your Instagram. I'm like, it's a process dealing with all the people, right?
It is a lot. And I think that there are some people that do like cosmetic updates and they don't look for things. And we get the houses that have all the problems. So it's just everything, and it takes a lot longer to do the renovation process. But I like the whole design behind it. And then the house ends up being like exactly what we want it to be at the end. So it works out.
Wow. So you're doing like it sounds like you're doing like $30,000 rehabs.
Uh, it's a lot more than
Lot more
that.
than that. Oh my.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That yeah, because I do rehab. I try to stick to the like the paint,
Hmm.
the floor. I try to because the big rehab. It seems like you never know what you're gonna run into. And it's just, do you have like a contractor inside, or you just you have?
So we have like a family friend that's he's really handy and I'm decently handy. My husband and I, we bought our house that we live in as a bank-owned foreclosure.
Right.
And this was back in 2012, like January of 2012. And so we just kind of knew that we wanted to get a good deal. That was my husband's number one criteria, like that our house was a good deal. So it was big and it had been vacant for I think 3 years before we moved in, and everything needed to be touched and fixed and repaired. Water lines had burst, so there was like warped floors. They were like waves. Everything was just a mess. So we just got to work and figured it out and watched a lot of YouTube videos and learned a lot about how houses work through our own house. And then we're able to apply that now on all of our rentals.
Well, yeah, that's the good part. Your first house was a major rehab, so anything after that, I mean, you kind of know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So let's start from the beginning. Like, where were you raised at? Like, how was your childhood growing up?
So I grew up in like near Rochester, New York, and then I moved to Cincinnati when I was 7, and I've just stayed here since then. My husband was born here and raised here, and he didn't want to leave, so we stayed. And now we met each other in college and got married, and we have kids now, and this is where we're at. So we just invest here because it's close to home. There wasn't any like big research into other markets. It's like, well, this is what we know. So
Right. So, like growing up, was your parents or his parents like into real estate? Like, how was you growing up?
so my growing up was a little different, but eventually like my mom met my stepdad, and when they got married way down the line, they ended up buying a property when I was at school at University of Cincinnati for me to live in, because we walked through all these houses. My mom was like, oh, you can't live there because landlords around UC, they like, it is like garbage. It is just filthy. Nothing is repaired. It's just, and you pay a ton for it. So my mom was like, we're going to buy a house. You're going to live in it. So at least I know you're not like getting bed bugs and all these other things while you're living there.
Right.
And then they rent that out. And that was a 2-family house. So they rented out the second floor of it all. And then they bought another one across the street. So they didn't really start doing houses until I was in college. And my husband's family, they've had rentals for a while. So he was already more familiar with this and a lot more comfortable with it than I was.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess definitely that experience of you seeing your parents buy you say the multi-family. So you lived on one side and another family lived. Okay. So they house hack. How long ago was that?
That was like 2008, 2009-ish.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Yeah. So you got first-hand experience of what house hacking looked like.
right.
Right. And you paid no rent?
Well, they charged me.
No,
That would have been awesome though.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so what are you go to college, you graduate college, right after college, did you get a job first, or how did it go?
So initially when I went to college, I was going to be a vet, and then I pivoted and I went to school for interior design. And then that was 2008. And so all of the housing market just like dropped. And I was so nervous because I'm like, I can't go to school for interior design when people can't afford to keep their house. This is not a secure industry. So I pivoted and then went to nursing school. I graduated as a nurse. We had our oldest son already at that time. And so I think it was like 5 weeks after graduation, 2 weeks after I passed my nursing boards, I had my second son, and he was just like a miserable baby. He was cried all the time for like 4 months. Wow. So I ended up calling my employer that I had lined up and letting him know, like, I can't work here, that no one will take this baby because he cries all the time. So he ended up having like silent reflux, which is just like an infant thing, and they didn't know. So once he was on meds, he was like fine, but that took a while. And then after that point, I just stayed home with the kids. We had our third baby, and a couple months after she was born, a house that we had been following back when we were looking for our house, it went to auction again, sheriff's auction. And so I saw it come up on the docket, and I told my husband, I'm like, we have to get this house. It's fate. It's here again. So I went down to the courthouse the day before we were getting ready to leave for New York to go visit my family for Easter, and bought a house. And so that was like a crazy time, because it was a really kind of an expensive house for like where we were at in our life right then. And the bank was financing the purchase, which they will not do now. But it's something they're like, oh yeah, we'll push this through. We can get it done in 30 days. And our banker ended up walking the check down to the courthouse on like the exact day that it was due, because it was so tight, them getting the financing for us to do this house. So I had a baby and then 2 little kids as I'm rehabbing this house, and the house had damage to it. It had been kind of like a new construction just a few years prior, but the person who had been living there, he was arrested for robbing a bank. So the police had like kicked in his door, and everything was just a mess. And then at some point, I think the builder had come back and taken like light fixtures, the finials for the banister, like things that you wouldn't think that people would take. They were all gone, like the towel racks. So it wasn't a complete rehab, but it was just a whole lot there that we were getting our feet wet with. And then we were so close to listing it for rent. We were going to have our listing pictures, and a tree fell on the house.
Wow. Oh my God.
Then there's a hole in the roof, and water's like pouring in. And
you're talking about right after you finish rehabbing it?
Right after, like we were going to have listing pictures within that week. And so then we're like, great, we've got to start all over. We've got to get the roof patched. We got to repaint. Now we have to have the floors all refinished. So that just added a lot longer on that timeline, but we ended up getting it all wrapped up, and we sold that, and we closed on that actually on our anniversary. So that was like a nice ending to the chaotic story that was that house. So
and for the people listening, like what I got out of that story was, first of all, you said you were looking at the house before, and it came back on the market, and it was like, that's like fate, that the house come for sale, you're looking, and it's like meant to be. It felt like it was meant to be when you were saying it. And people, like even me, when I had my first son, I only got one son, but the day he was born, the next day they were offering the class to take your real estate license. So I'm like, I'm finna be out of work. I don't really want to spend this extra money, because when I'm gonna be out of work, I'm not getting paid, you know? So I'm like, dang, should I risk spending $500 to take my real estate license? And it was like, the baby was born the day before. It's meant to be. So you got it. Like when things are lining up for you, and it's like, you're not sure whether to go forward or not. If it's lining up, I think you should take that chance or risk, because it's meant to be. Even with the tree falling on at the end.
It still worked out. That actually worked out pretty well, because insurance paid for a lot of it. And so it wasn't as bad as what it definitely could have been. So make sure you've got insurance on your properties. That's all I can say.
Okay. So was that the first rental property?
That was my first. We used that as a flip, so that got us a lot of just like capital. And after that, we did that all with the baby, and I was like, I can't do another property until all of the kids sleep through the night. So we had our fourth baby in 2016, and then 2019 we started looking again at houses in earnest. We built up a lot of savings. Everyone was sleeping. I felt like I had just like a little bit of sanity back. So we bought our first rental property at auction in the summer of 2019, and that was sight unseen.
So wait, with that first court auction, because it's different everywhere. Here, I think if I buy something from the courthouse, you have to pay cash. So it's not like you had 30 days, you could still get a bank loan?
Back then you could, but now they won't.
Now they won't, okay.
So this one we paid cash for. We used our savings, and then we were also using like our home equity line for the rehab. We knew we would have that lined up.
Okay, so you go to this first auction, And all right, this house, what does this house look like? Let's take us through it.
So on the outside, it was a brick house, and we knew that the lady lived in it. So
Right.
you're thinking like, this is great. You know, it's
Right.
brick. She lives there. It's going to be great. And she had told my husband, because he knocked on the door and wanted to talk to her, and she didn't really like let him walk through the house. And he was like, can we buy it? Because we tried to buy it ahead of time. And she's like, no, I'm not going to sell it. It's just going to go. And we're like, okay, well, we'll just buy it at auction then. And she had said then that sometimes the basement gets a little damp, which is like normal for houses. Right. So we go in, and it just like hits you. The house smelled so bad. She had dogs, like one of her dogs had died in the house, but like it wasn't there anymore. But it just like dog pee was just soaked in on everything. The hardwoods were completely trashed. Even after we lifted them up, they were like still wet. Right. And then the upstairs the layout was just completely messed up. The whole house layout was messed up. And then you went downstairs, and there's like half an inch of water that's standing in the basement. Wow. So that's a little damp, and there's structural foundation cracks. So I would say that's like the worst case scenario.
Was she a renter or a homeowner?
She was the homeowner.
Wow.
She said that her son told her that it was going to be condemned by the city and bulldozed. That's why she didn't sell it to us. But she didn't tell that to us when we were looking ahead of time. So we got in there and we started doing demo, and every time we peeled back something, the previous homeowner, he felt like he was really handy, and so he had done a lot of things himself, but he worked in the garden center at Home Depot versus like something a little more
building a house type,
right? So the electric, he would like take extension cords and cut like the plugs off of them and use that for wiring in a short span instead of like buying Romex or whatever you need to use for that particular space. He did his own plumbing that leaked, and they would just add layers instead of repairing the things that needed to be repaired. So he had taken out 3 structural walls without reinforcing them, and he didn't repair the chimney leak. So all of the floor joists under the bathroom were almost like you could poke your finger through them. It's amazing that like we didn't fall through the floor. So we had to strip it all down and then build it all back up.
Was it a competitive bid, or is it just like you guys were the only one trying to buy it?
The bank threw out a bid that was like their minimum that they would accept, and then I was like, and one, and then that was it. So no one else. The bank wanted more than what we had anticipated for it, but we were just really ready to do a house, and it came with a vacant lot. So that was the contingency factor. The vacant lot saved the whole basement problem. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't have been as good of a deal.
So did you sell the vacant lot, or?
We still have it. We haven't built on it yet, but it's there.
Oh, but you have a vacant lot. Yes. Okay. So like many people, if you're looking to buy a property sometime, and the house could be on a double lot, and if it's not in the center, you can actually buy the house and you can sell it off the lot, or you can build on the lot. And that's a good opportunity, like you said, value add.
Right. It's a buildable lot. So we have it there just in case, or I guess not just in case, but for when we're ready to build on it.
Right. Okay. Like before you started doing all this rehabbing, like you're doing now, all these rental properties, like what did you imagine, like your daily real estate life to look like? Is it the same as you imagine, or is it more hectic or less hectic?
I think there's definitely a lot more hectic things that pop up now at this point. Back then, like last year, like it was so long ago, last year, it was a lot, we did a lot more hands-on. So it's very much what I felt like it was going to be, because it was us there at the houses every day, and nothing really happened if we weren't there because we were the ones doing it. We had like a roofer who came in, and we had people who did windows, and we had a family friend who helped us with framing, and he helped do the tile, and he was our saving grace because he can point out whatever we're doing and being like, no, you need to do this differently, or you need to do that differently. And then my husband, his dad is an electrician, but we ended up hiring electricians to come in and do the house. So that was helpful to have just people who knew their specific craft, and then I was there managing them and doing all of the things that I was doing.
Right. Okay. All right. This rehabbing, like this is one of the things that I am right now in the rehabbing.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you first start out rehabbing, first of all, you don't know if they tell you a high price or low price, honestly.
Right.
And that's one thing. And then like just paying people in general
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get the work done, it's all like a cluster ball of mess. It could be a mess.
It is.
So like how are you going about paying your guys? Are you like, okay, or when you finish the job we pay you, or we get a percentage up front? How are you organizing?
So for that deal, mostly what we did was we'd have the specific trade that came in, like if they were doing the electric, we'd give them a draw up front, and that way they could buy materials and whatever it was that they needed for the house, and then we gave them the final draw at completion. So that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that
Here
makes
and there.
sense. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I was paying, like I was having people work and paying them by the day, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like that was like a first project, and it was just getting
Yep.
drawn out. So now I switched my strategy, and it's for anybody doing anything, it's a learning curve. I think you got to figure out what team you got and what works best for you guys. So now like you said, I give them the money to buy the materials, and once the job is complete, I mean, not where I just got to go back in and do this or do that. I'm talking about the job is complete all the way. That's when you get the final payment.
Right. We ran into that with a couple of we have 3 houses under renovation right now. And so we brought in a lot more people, obviously, because I can't be at all of these houses. And our kids are virtual schooling from home.
Right.
And my daughter, so my sons have like a regular schedule for their Zooms. And my daughter is in kindergarten. And some days she has 6 Zooms, and then other days she has 2. So it's a rotating 2-week schedule of Zooms. And
Right.
like she can't tell time yet. So I'm like, Ellie, get on Zoom. It's time for Zoom, because it's just like chaos with her. So I brought in extra people to help for just sanity and everything, so we can keep these projects going. And initially they were just like, I don't know, they just weren't being managed. And so I'm paying out a ton of money because I'm like, I'm happy to pay for good work. I'm happy to pay for the work to be finished, but it just wasn't being managed and it wasn't being done. So now I've pulled back everything, and every single thing has to have a bid. You're going to get a draw, like I'll pay for the materials or charge it to my account at the store. And then you're getting paid at the end once everything is finished, because I can't get burned like this. I can't just like pay you to do an unlisted task. You have to have something that you're working towards.
And the one thing I realized too is, I'm not saying all contractors, but most of the time they don't understand, like from a worker position, if they say they like to paint, they want to paint every single thing. They want to get the best paint, the best paint brushes, and it's like, okay, we're selling this property and everything will be, it's like
Right.
going overboard to do something, or it's
Or like,
something you didn't ask them to do, especially because they
right.
think it'll help, but it's really not helping the value add.
Right. And for our rentals, I have like a very specific way that I want. I'm a little OCD, but I have like a way that I want it to be done, because
Right.
this is the way that it's done throughout all of them. So I know that all closets are painted with ceiling paint because it's flat and it's easy to touch up when it gets like bumped by people's clothing or whatever.
Right.
So this needs to be the same, and it needs to be the same color paint throughout all the houses, so that I'm not scrambling and trying to find like, well, what white is this? Because there's 1,000 whites, and then all of our wall paints are the same colors throughout. So it's just very easy to kind of have a system in place, like this is what we use and it needs to be done this way, because we're copying and pasting it from house to house.
Right. So that's what I want to ask, because like you said, I do the same thing. So what are some must-haves? So every house, we're gonna put this in it because it add value or it just look good to all the buyers.
So I like warm wood toned flooring. I know that gray has its place, but I think that that's not going to be a forever thing. So I'm leaning, like everything we're doing is warm wood toned floors. So if we're refinishing the floors, the floor sanders are like, well, let's just do it dark because it's easier for them. I'm like,
Right.
no, we're not doing the dark floors. We're doing light because we want the space to feel open and bright, as open and bright as possible. So our wall color is light, our floors are light, everything is clean and crisp. And that, I think, helps a lot for our walkthroughs and just like getting people in the door when we're renting our properties. And then we look for value adds. So if we can add a bathroom or add a bedroom, or just like the basement is my like big thing. I don't like dark, scary basements. So we always clean it, and I paint the floor with white porch and patio paint. And then there's like flecks that you put in it so it hides the dirt. But makes just a complete difference because everyone who walks through has walked through other basements that are like scary and dirty and gross. And then it's like, here, you can put stuff down here and not feel creepy about it. So that's like a really big thing that we always do. And it's not expensive to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it makes a huge impact.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And like the most popular thing right now is everybody's doing that. Even I'm doing it myself. That gray wall with the white trim is like a very popular thing. Yeah. But because I'm doing a lot of older homes, and my whole thing is trying to make these old homes look like a new home.
Right.
You know.
I use like an off-white color and just cycle through the same thing.
Okay. So when y'all are looking for deals, what's like, say for somebody who's trying to get into real estate, like what's your, like right now you got your money set up in the bank and you're ready to buy your next deal. Where are you going to start looking at first? How are you finding your deals?
Me? Well, I became a realtor this year because I had tons of free time. No, just kidding. I thought it would help out. So I became a realtor, and that's helped a little bit with being able to navigate like the whole backside of the MLS. Like there's so many things that I didn't know existed as far as like spreadsheets and searches that I can just send myself now as a realtor that just wasn't available to me before. And so that is my number one place to look. But then my husband is like the most friendly, amicable guy, and he goes and full door knock, and he doesn't complain about it at all. I think he likes it. And so he'll talk to the people around our rentals and say like, hey, if you're ever interested in selling, let me know. And then they talk to other people. So we found a couple of houses just by knocking on doors.
Right. And I tell people all the time, like that's the easiest way to find deals is just telling people, like you said, you got owner of a house, tell the guy next door, because most of the time the person that you're giving your card to or telling about you buying a house, they're not gonna be the one to sell your house, but they're gonna tell somebody else that they hear, oh, you trying to sell your house? Oh, such and such, Kristy's a realtor. And it's like 3 people away and it came all back to you.
Right. And I do like auctions, but there's not a lot of auctions happening right now because of the way that banks are operating with the mortgages being paused due to COVID.
Okay, so you're a realtor now. You go on MLS, or just for somebody searching who's not a realtor, what is something that sticks out to you? What kind of deals are you looking for?
So I'm looking for a property that has a high square footage but a low bedroom count so that I know I can convert some of that space into an added bedroom. I look for properties that are listed as a 1-bed bathroom and they have an extra bathroom in the basement or room to add an extra bathroom on the like bedroom floor. I like having a driveway because I have 4 kids and I don't like having all my tools and my kids like on the street. So that's like one of our big must-haves. It's got to have parking. Otherwise it's a really not a good deal for us, or ability to add a driveway down the line. That's really what it is. Ability to add bedrooms, bathroom, driveway, just added space. So we're most of the time we're getting into the walls and tearing everything out. So it doesn't really matter to me if some of the floor plan's a little wonky or if the carpet is ugly or the paint color isn't right, because none of that is going to stay anyway, right?
Yeah. So when you're looking for maybe your first fixer-upper or rental property, like even me, before I became a realtor, I bought my first house with a lot of square footage, and that lot of square footage, that is money. That's dollar signs. And some people have a lot of square footage, but they're not occupying that space for the highest dollar amount. Like you said, adding bathrooms and bedrooms, that's like
so many people, they get these big houses and they don't like open up a wall where it just would have made a world of difference. So that's like where I think my design aspect really comes in. One of our houses that we have under construction right now, we call it Big Red, and that's a big house. And so it was just really choppy. They had built onto it 3 times and you couldn't really access the bedrooms well. So we've just completely stripped it down, and now the floor plan makes sense and it's usable.
Okay. So I want to ask this. So imagine, Kristy, I offered you a job to work at a hospital. You making $60,000 a year, and you wasn't doing this real estate. How is your life different as far as family and financially because you guys choose to invest in real estate rather than just working a typical job and saving for your 401k?
It's just exponentially different. I can be there for my kids whenever, like back when they actually went to school. Anytime I got a call, like my son went down the slide first, and so his pants got wet because it had rained, and they're like, you need to bring new pants. I'm like, okay. I just grabbed them and went because I didn't have to check in with my employer or do anything. It's just me being able to be flexible. If I'm not able to get to the house that day, it's okay. I've got people there that can handle it. And my kids they're just like the priority. That's the why behind it all. So we're working towards getting Josh to be able to leave his job so that we can do this both together and just have that added flexibility.
Right. Yeah, and that's what people, because I quit my job last year. I was a mailman, and people always ask, what's like, first they say, are you making more money now? And I'm like, I might not really be making more money yet, but the amount of like free time you said, that is like, you can't even put a dollar sign on that, you know? It's so valuable. They'd be able to just go, if your son wears pants, whatever, they go do it right there. That's like, you can't really put a price on that. Right. Okay. So, all right, if it was a big secret and somebody whispered in your ear, like, Kristy, this is your gift. You're better than everybody in the world at this. This is your purpose. What do you think that secret would be?
Well, the first thing that jumps to my mind is making cookies, because I'm really good at making cookies. But I would say the design of the houses, really, I'll walk through them and I can see like the finished project, and I'll say to my husband, like, look, don't you see it? And he's like, this looks like a pile of garbage. But then at the end, when it's all done, he's like, oh, now I get what you were seeing, because I'm able to bring it to life. So I think that that's something that obviously not everyone has.
Okay, so all right. So you got a choice. To go make 1,000 cookies and make $10,000, or go work on a house and make $10,000. Which one are you going to?
Well, I would go work on the house. That's way too many cookies.
Well, so you're great at making cookies, but you enjoy doing real estate.
Yes.
Okay. Because I asked that question because I feel like a lot of people give up on their gift or what they're meant to do and just go work a normal job that they don't really like just to pay their bills. So, for instance, if you wasn't doing real estate and you told me you hated your job, I would assume, why don't you open up maybe a cookie, a cookie business? Because are you better at cooking cookies than most people?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy. I don't know, because most people, even really, like for me, I wasn't a good test taker, and I passed some real estate license tests, and it's like, that's my gift, real estate. I'm good at it naturally, whether I study or like I'm talking to you about it. I didn't have to really prepare to talk about real estate because it just flowed.
Right.
So I feel
we
like
talk about that. Like once my husband retires and we're completely set with our cash flow reserves, it's not like, well, we're going to completely leave this and go do something else. It's like we still want to do houses together because we both enjoy this so much.
Enjoy doing it. Yeah. Right. I had a guy I got a YouTube, when I quit my job, I made like a 2 weeks notice YouTube video about why I'm quitting, and I sent it to him. But I had a guy, it got like a lot of views now, like over 10,000 views. But a guy commented today, he was like, today was my last day of work at the post office. I felt like quitting at 24 years. It's 24 years in, but he didn't made it too far. So he finally did his 30-year bid, and now he said he was like just super happy that now he can live his life. And I'm like, so you gave up 30 years just to say you can live your life now? Right. I'm like, that is good. And I see so many people did that, and I was actually scared. I'm like, so wait, I'm finna wait to go to the Grand Canyon when I turn 60? You're shaking your head. Nope. That is crazy. But yeah, so that's what this whole podcast is about. The New American Dream is like living now, like you said, getting financial free that you can go do what you want now instead of putting off until after retirement. Right. Okay. So how do how do you, like, as far as time management, because even you said you got 4 kids and then you're working on 3 properties, like, where are you borrowing this time from? Because I don't see it.
Well, I would just say that I try to be very organized with my schedule and my time. So I have like my calendar where I put everything in. And then as far as like our house that we live in, it's a lot more to take care of since everyone literally never leaves right now. But I just have a set schedule where everything gets taken care of. So even if things are falling apart at the houses, our house here is maintaining and keeping at it steady. You know, everything here stays clean, everyone is fed, everything is taken care of. So that just gives me a lot of peace to be able to then pour more time into the different houses as that need arises. And then I just try and schedule it out and hire in help where I need it.
Right.
With those properties, at least.
Okay. So you think, like, once your husband quit his job,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think, like, what effect do you want this to have on your kids? Because evidently if you aren't going to a regular job like all their friends' parents are, how do you want this to affect your kid? Like, how you want them to look at money?
I want them to realize that you can make money doing like so many different things, that it's not you have to go to school and join all these extracurriculars and get good grades and then go to college and get good grades and then get a good job. And then when you're 65, you can retire. Like, that's not what I want them to feel like they have to subscribe to, and that's the only option. There's so many other routes that you can take where you're enjoying and living your life along the way instead of putting it off for tomorrow that might never come. You know, it's not guaranteed that you're going to reach that point. So I want them to feel like whatever they're doing, that they'll be successful in it. And one thing my parents always said to me was, you can be anything you want, Christine. Like, you're so smart. You can do like whatever. You can do whatever you want, which is probably true, but I can't do all the things. So being able to narrow down and focus in on one thing has been like the greatest time saver, because now I'm not jumping in all of these different directions. It's really the houses and then our house here and this goal of reaching our financial independence.
Right. Dang, that was right. You said your mom said you could be anything you want to be. And where I was going with that, I was thinking, if, like, for me, I think real estate, like with your kids,
Mm-hmm.
real estate allows you to, if you got enough cash flow from rental properties, it actually allows you to actually go do what you really want to do. So I look at it like, eventually I want to have enough rental properties where I can go ride ATVs and nobody's calling me about the toilet. Nobody's calling me about, if they are, I want to have property management. Right now I manage all my properties. So I think real estate allowed, like, say my child, once I'm older and he enjoys, say he want to be ride jet skis for a living.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you got real estate providing, pay your bills, so you can go ride jet skis and not get paid nothing because you're not living for money then, you know?
Exactly. And our kids are being able to get that side of things from such a young age that it's not having to challenge everything that's been drilled into them along the way. You know, they're seeing this and it's their normal.
Right. It's gonna be their normal, but their friends gonna be like, your parents are weird. They don't work.
Right.
I always went, because like when I first had my son, he's 2 now, but I didn't want him to know that I had a boss almost. I don't know if that's weird. Like, my son, if he want me to take him to the park and I got to go ask this stranger, hey, can I take my son to the park? I just felt like that was weird.
Right.
It's kind of like you're not a grown up yet.
Right.
But
it's
okay.
crazy.
Yeah. So what do you see for your, like, what's y'all, like, in the next 5 years, where do you want the business to be at?
So in the next 5 years, we're on a trajectory right now where we want to get like 5 or 6 houses a year and keep converting them over. We're also kind of working on some like larger multifamily type deals, commercial deals, so that we can get just a big chunk in. We want to have our 10 conventional loans maxed out and 1 or 2 bigger things already stabilized before Josh leaves his job, because his W-2, he's a pharmacist, so he makes, a good income, and he has that steady paycheck that allows us to qualify for all kinds of financing. So until we get the business to show a lot of real revenue. We don't want him to leave that security. So hopefully in the next 5 years we've hit that and he is no longer there.
Right. And you know, the harder part, I think it's hard. The more money you make, it might be harder for me to leave my job because it's,
right.
you know,
it's security.
Yeah, security. And like you said, getting the loan. So for people, if like a lot of people who write me, they want to just, how can I quit my job and get in real estate? Well, you really can't just quit your job and go buy houses because you don't have no income to show. So
Right.
the job is beneficial at the beginning until you can show, you know, a portfolio or some kind of way to get money.
Exactly. We want to use that until we don't need it anymore.
Right. So I was gonna say, how do you because I honestly, I get a lot of problems every day. Like Gary B said one time on the podcast, he was like, when he come home from dinner, he don't talk to his wife about the business because it's nothing but problems. I don't know. How do you deal, like, when you, like, say you facing a problem and it need to be dealt with, but you don't really feel like it fit in that person or whatever? How do you deal with your problems when they come up in the business now?
So I don't like complain really a lot online, but I will like do my little vent to Josh and then I just get over it and I try and spin it more into like a positive light. Like, well, what am I learning from this? You know, how can I make sure that this never happens again? We have a tenant who is a little more needy than what maybe she should be. And so we've had a lot of calls from her about various things that are not landlord problems. And so now we've amended our lease going forward and we have very clear stipulations so that we're not going to get these kinds of calls anymore because I'm not going to put up with it again. So now it's just like such a peace of mind knowing that I've erased it and it's not going to happen.
Do you want to sell that property?
No, it's a great property. It's a great property. She's never like lived anywhere before, I think. Right. And so it's just like, she wanted us to solve her disagreement with the neighbors and I'm not getting involved with the neighbor. That's not my landlord thing. You know, if you have something that you feel uncomfortable about with the neighbor, then you've got to talk to her. You know, that's our neighbor forever. We own the property and you're living here for a short period of time and we didn't have any problems with her. So I think that there was a misunderstanding along there some point, but it's not my thing. So
right.
I don't need to get involved.
That's my biggest issue. Like that phone call ringing and the tenants wanting, like, what are some things in your lease you put now that the fact that you have several rentals, what are some things that's like mandatory for that front page of the lease or whatever, most important in your lease?
So the things that we've amended are like that maintenance request, because that was a Saturday night call about the neighbor at like 10 p.m. And I'm like, this is not an emergency. This is not something that I even need to handle. So putting in there clearly that these are the appropriate times to reach us during business hours. These are the things that are appropriate things to call us about, leaks, you know, the things that we want to hear about. Like literally nothing on a Saturday night is something that I can do. If the house is on fire, call the fire department. Don't call me. I can't put the fire out. If you're having problems or you need to call the police, you know, unless it's like a water pipe that has burst, there's nothing that I can fix. So making that very clear and just outlining the expectations of how quickly we will fix things. Like we aim to resolve this issue within X amount of time, depending on what the issue is, and just being reasonable about it so that they don't think like the toilet runs a little bit, so they're going to come over right now and fix it. Like, no, this isn't an emergency. It's not going to be right now. We'll take care of it within like 72 business hours or whatever it is for that thing. And then the other thing that we've had come up had to do with maintenance again, and it was a clogged sewer. So they had, I think, flushed like Clorox wipes and it clogged it. So now we have very clear stipulation that if there are maintenance issues that are your cause, like you did it, then you're going to pay for it. And that's all it is, because we paid for that, but we just didn't know better, like to have it in our lease.
I'm finna put some of them things in my lease.
Yep.
Because like, oh man, it feel like because I'm younger than just about every single one of my tenants, and it's like, I'm not your parent. I'm not gonna, don't call me. No.
Right.
So Yeah, and one of the things, I got a duplex, and I don't think people realize this, but the more you call your landlord, the less likely your lease gonna get renewed. Especially in this day and time, like people are looking where I'm at. People are looking for rentals like every second. I can't even like walk in the front yard and pick up a rate. Is that house for rent? You know, that's crazy. But okay, so all right. Yeah, it's good for me, but I'm just like, I try to be, like me, part of me buying real estate is to become a good landlord, and I want people to have affordable homes, but also safe, nice looking homes instead of like affordable homes in the bad part of town. I want to have like affordable homes in a good part of town.
It's like us.
Yeah. So if I'm doing that, and you normally wouldn't probably be able to afford to stay in this place. So if you're doing all them calls, now I have to, not renew your lease because you're making my life a headache.
More work, right?
Yeah. And this is how I choose if I renew the lease. Like maybe like 2 months or 3 months before the lease end, I asked my wife, I was like, are we renewing that person's lease? And she literally be like, she'd know based off the phone calls I get, yay or nay. And if she say no, I'll be like, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, this is like the last final questions, just rapid questions. All right. If you could spend a day with a mentor and like somebody you really admire, who would it be?
Well, I just recently read the 4-Hour Workweek again, so I'd say like Tim Ferriss, because he seems has all the systems in place. He has virtual assistants for everything, and I try I'm kind of a minimalist, and so I have like inbox zero on my email, and it's just like everything is in line. Like I clear my calls, I clear my messages, and he's just like delegated that all. So the things that come through to him are just like the important things. So learning how he got to that place and just like being able to pick his brain about how I can implement some of that more, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I know you're probably thinking I should implement some of those things too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think, like, because I try to go like not 100 miles per hour, but maybe 80 miles per hour. Yeah. And when you go, like you said, when you're trying to reach a goal, maybe I'm a guy. Maybe I just move too fast and I don't have that organization skills. But recently, a lot of guests been saying like the key to that success has been organized. I gotta
so crucial knowing like where everything is, and like all of our paperwork is organized, and the books I update all the time, and our bills. So just like having that system to fall back on, it just became a habit. And then now I don't have to think about it. So it's no longer a chore or something that's piled up. And now it's like an emergency. I have to sit down and do it because it's already taken care of.
Wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I interviewed a lady yesterday. She's 20 years old, right? And she's on TikTok. She has like 800,000 followers. Wow. And she's only 20 years old. And she has a full team, a staff team. So you know how like we post stuff going on? And she said she do all her posts on Sunday night and let her team post it throughout the week. And I'm like, wow, that is organized, because instead it looked like to us you're working, but literally that was pre-done and you're on to the next.
Right. It's all batched and put together. And that way she's not worrying about it.
I like that. I'm like, that's super organized.
I'm not there yet, but I would like to get there.
Right. And she's only 20 years old. So I'm like, jeez. Favorite real estate or business book besides Tim Ferriss?
So it's not necessarily a business book, but my favorite like life perspective book is Essentialism by Greg McKeown, I think is how you say his last name. And that's like the whole premise of that book is less but better. So it kind of goes along with the minimalist thing, but it's just like whatever you're doing, do fewer things, but do the things that you do super well. So one of his graphics in his book is like a sun, and it has all these different rays pointing out. So if you're trying to do all of these different things, your rays don't get very far because the distance that it's spread is limited. But if you focus all of that energy into one ray, it goes really far and you're able to achieve a lot more instead of trying to do too many little things. So I try and like think about that as I work through my business, like less but better. How can I focus my energy into fewer tasks to then get them further along?
Right. Yeah. I like that. I'm reading a book kind of like that now. It is, I don't know if you read this, Traction.
No, it's on my list though.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you said, is making use of your time, but getting your business like on a all on a wheel, like rolling together.
Right.
Because even like when you say that, focus your energy on the things that make big moves.
Mm-hmm.
On one end, you're making big moves, but I'm doing that now. But on the other end, you're spending more because the things that you normally would do, you have to evidently pay somebody to do it.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And it's hard to make that jump from
yeah
doing it all to focusing and delegating and paying for those other things.
But I actually see like, you might not think it's better, but I see a difference in me. Like the other day, the guy, it was like trash around one of the properties I'm fixing up, and the guy was picking up the neighbor trash, and I'm like, "Hey, will you get this trash?" And he was like, "Yeah, just give me $20." I'm like, "Wow," because that would have took me maybe like 45 minutes to an hour just to gather all that up, go take it, and it was $20. It was worth it, And he came back and even got more stuff. I'm like,
yeah,
that's dedicating my time to its best use.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So for people listening, if you're trying to like make it or get ahead, I think focus like definitely on your passion, whatever you're pursuing in life, and things that are not so important. Delegate.
Yep.
Best life advice that you live by.
I would say just like follow your dreams. It's super cliche, but that's what we're doing. We have our dream of living together as our family, not being constrained by a job, and being able to travel when we want, not having to ask permission, like you said, like to go on vacation. And one of the books I read this summer talked about how working is the worst trade in the world. You're working 5 days for 2, who would take that deal? You wouldn't give me 5 cookies if I was going to give you 2 back. This isn't a good deal. So you're trading away your work life for just a weekend where you're going to recharge and then get back to doing it all again. It's a waste. So we're working really hard on following our dreams of not partaking in that and being able to travel together as a family, have just like experience things instead of like stuff life.
Right.
So many people focus on the stuff versus experience. So
definitely experiences. Definitely at this time, the way the world is, it's like the mall where I live at, nobody really shopping like that. Mm-hmm. I guess because people don't know what the economy what's going to happen. So definitely right now it's like spending your money on saving or experiences.
Yep.
Okay. I was going to say something. Okay, so number 4, what are your hobbies outside of real estate?
Real estate basically is my hobby. Like I have our kids and then our house. I guess DIYs around our house. I always look around and come up with different projects that I want to do around here. And I think that's part of the reason my husband was so excited to get me into real estate investing, because now I can do all my design and projects and it's making us money versus just sinking it into our house. So that's I just like building stuff and doing crafty things.
So you don't do anything outside of real estate? No, I'm just playing.
I read a lot, and we play board games with the kids, and I like to swim.
Right.
We have a pool at our house, and
when I had a mind fart, this is what I was thinking. But when I worked at my job, you ask the supervisor time off. So on Mondays, I realized people are cranky because right after Sunday. So you never ask for time off or anything that you want on Mondays. And then on Fridays, because I was a mailman, so I delivered to elementary schools and stuff. Aww. So Monday morning, you walk in, good morning. Nobody really saying nothing. Everybody but Friday, you walk in, hey, Mr. Mailman. Everybody happy because the next day we're off. And I'm like, that is messed up. You know what I mean? Like Monday, back down. Friday, it's like, yes, because we're off tomorrow. Just for 2 days.
I want every day to be Saturday, where it's just we can choose what we want to do that day. And obviously, we'll plan out our life and where things need to get done in order to keep us along with our goal. But to be able to have that spontaneous nature and just freedom to do whatever you want to do on that day.
Yeah. And that's what I always say. My favorite day growing up was a Saturday. Mm-hmm. And now, literally, it's not all the way how I wanted to be, but every day I try to live it like it's Saturday.
Right.
Okay. All right. So the old American dream is, you would be working your job for 30 years, then you retire, and then you start spending time with your kids after you retire. But what is your version of the new American dream that you will live your life by?
Our new version is to retire within the next 5 years, which is way before 65, and be able to travel with the kids. I'd like to get like a beater RV, something that's super ugly, and then make that over and have it be like this beautiful, fun spot for us to use for traveling, and like just take it out west with the kids and go hiking in all the national parks. And we want to hit all 50 states. So last November, I bought this like scratch off map of the United States, and we want to take all the kids to all the states. So we went to like Tennessee. My parents have a lake house in Tennessee last year. And then in January, we took the kids to Florida. And then on the way back up, we hit the Carolinas and visited my husband's sister. And then COVID hit. So our map has been sitting there just like looking at me. I hung it up at our entryway because I was like, we're going to look at this every day as we leave the house. We're going to be like, all right, planning our next trip. And then none of that has happened. So I want to get back to that as soon as like the world opens up again, and be able to, you know, have our properties here that we do and continue to renovate and make things better than where we got them, and then travel.
Yes. I travel. I'd be like, I want to walk every step on the United States. Like every piece of ground and soil, I want to at least step on it once. I just recently came, not recently, but maybe a couple months from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Have you been there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that place is awesome, man. It's like, I like Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I went to Maui, Hawaii.
Yeah.
You been in Hawaii?
I've been to Hawaii. I've been a lot of places, and I want to take my kids there too. My husband hasn't traveled as much, so he's like, of course you've been there, but I want to take him, you know. And hi.
You said walk in. Yes, you know the time is over now because all right. So let the people know where they can find you at, and if they want to reach out and contact you.
So cute. So I'm on Instagram at mom_homework, or I have a website, momhomework.com, that I'm like revamping so I can add more spreadsheets and free downloads there and just real estate goodies.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on the show, Kristy.
You're welcome.
All right.